Hey guys, in this video I will be restoring this oil cooler of a Celica T180, the 5th generation. As you can see, the hose over here isn't in the best shape. Rust has been building up and that's why the hose broke and it started leaking oil. So I will be cleaning this oil cooler up and try and repair as much as I can. I'm not a professional in any kind of form. I'm just going to do whatever I can do. So yeah, stick around and we'll get to it. As you can see, the brackets are attached here and here. Of course, one of the bolts has to break because whenever you work on an older car, this one is 32 years old, things snap. So yeah, there's always one or multiple. The clasp has completely deteriorated on this piece of hose, so I will be removing it with a screwdriver. Here the oil cooler is completely taken apart. I have my two hoses, the bracket with oil pipes, the cooler itself, the other brackets, two smaller hoses. As you can see, rust has been building up inside of these hoses and rust expands, and that's the reason hoses break. So check your hose connections and clean whenever you see rust building up. As you can see, it's gotten quite dirty. It should be looking clean like that, but this whole bracket, yeah, it has been crusted with rust. So next up is making it oil free and cleaning it up. As you can see, I have drilled out the broken bolt and retapped it, so now it's good to go again. I'm going to treat this bracket with a rust dissolver from Rustico. It's a gel. I'm also going to treat this smaller bracket. I have already cleaned it with brake cleaner, so it's all oil free. I'm going to wrap it with aluminum foil to keep the gel moist. I don't want it to dry out, and this is the gel. Excuse the weird language, it's because I'm Dutch. So let's get the first round going. I know what it might look like, but trust me, this is just the first layer of gel. This is how it looks like now. Let's see how it looks like sometime later. So this is 2 hours later. As you can see, some of the rust has been dissolving. You can see some blank areas that's clean now, but there's still a lot of rust left. So I might need to do another coat and keep going until it's clean. And just to give you a better idea of what this stuff does, I have rinsed it off. I took a wire wheel to it just to get some smut off. But it has cleaned up quite nicely, even for a first coat. There's still some of the original paint on it, which is surprising, honestly. And here is the smaller brackets. You can see some of the rust has gotten off. It has damaged some of the paint, but that's not surprising. So I will be doing a second coat. This is after the second coat. I left it overnight in the gel. I've already cleaned it up, so you can take reference. I cleaned up the smaller bracket with a wire wheel and sanded it. It wasn't as bad as the bigger bracket, so that's why this one was doable. So this one is nice and clean now, but this bigger bracket, geez, look at that. There is still rust. I guess 32 years of rusting is really difficult to remove, so I will keep going with the coats until it's clean enough. After the third coat, I did find a small hole right over there, the small black dots. This is after the 5th coat of gel. As you can see, it has cleaned up pretty well. There's still some stubborn rust left. Here is the other side. So onwards we go. What's better than having one oil cooler? That's right, having 2 of them. I used to have a spare parts car. I already took it apart in its entirety, but I kept all the parts. Now I get to pick and choose between the parts. I did notice on the first oil cooler there is a indentation. I think a rock might have hit it. These 2 oil coolers seem to be comparable in state. I will pick between them later. This is the oil pipe bracket of the spare oil cooler. As you can see, it's already in better shape than the one I've been working on. I will get this one sandblasted just to show you a difference between the two treatments, and so you can pick between the two which one you'd prefer. This one still has some of the original paint, and honestly, I might just be using this one. I will still clean the other one though. I did notice this one has a small hole as well, but honestly that's inevitable with these things. I finally got the bracket clean enough with this stuff. I must say it does work, but I don't think it is suitable for this application when a part has been rusting for this long and rust has been compacted so deeply into it. You should just let me get this open. I feel like I've used a quarter of this whole top and I don't think it's worth it. I mean, it still has rust, but it's finally gotten to a point where I'm just happy enough with it. Here are the two brackets side by side, the right one being sandblasted and the left one cleaned with the gel. As you can see, it still has rust in certain spots, but it's just so ingrained. You can see it has a hole right there, and it has some smaller holes along the rim the hose sits against. This is not gonna get any cleaner. I've tried, and here's the bracket that came freshly from the sandblaster. It cost me 10 euros to get it sandblasted, and only 2 days. One 15-minute drive to bring it, then waiting a day, and then another 15-minute drive to pick it back up again. You can see it has some holes along the rim of the hose fitting, but so has the other one. This one still seems to be in better shape overall though. So I will be using the sandblasted one. The left one took me 2 weeks to clean with the gel and some sandpaper to compare to the right one. I don't think it's worth it. Just pay the tenner and be done with it. But now you know. To bring back some structure and fill in the holes, I'm going to use a steel filler of Mondial. It says it's good for it. It's up to 80 degrees withstandable. It's epoxy based. I've gotten it for cheap, another 10 euros. I've never used this stuff before, so I don't know whether or not it's suitable for this application. It's going to be an experiment, but I might need something stronger. Time will tell whether it's going to drip oil or hold up. The steel filler is going to be applied along the rims to give it back some thickness and of course to close off these holes together with that one right over there. I'm going to use thinner together with some paper towels to clean the work area. I also have some plastic cloths to protect my hands. I'm going to apply it with a metal spatula, and I have put out a carton to mix on. This stuff dries quickly, so work with small amounts. This is what it looks like once applied and filed down. You can see I already filled in the hole in the bracket, and this is what I want it to look like. I used a metal file. You can do that rather quickly. I'm not happy with these two. I will apply some more on here and then file them down again. These are the files I used, a big one for the heavy lifting and a smaller one for precision work. A lot of dust comes from filing the filler, so you might wanna wear a mask. This is the final result on this bracket. As you can see, I've tried some different forms. I'm okay with this. This was for practice anyway. So now I've got my practice in, it's time to move on to this one. This is the shape I decided on for the filler. You can see it leaves a lot of space for the hose. I didn't apply anything to this one because I didn't need it. I'm quite happy with the results on this one. All that's left to do now is to paint it. Paint day has arrived. I have the small bracket right here and the two oil pipe brackets right here. I put some bolts in the holes to protect the wire. I'm going to clean them with thinner again, and I have some gloves and rope. I'm going to paint them with whatever I've left laying around. I've hung them from a broom handle with the rope, used tape to close off the ends, and now we're ready to paint. I've applied 2 coats of primer. It isn't a perfect paint job, as you can see right here, but it is good enough. I'm not aiming for perfection anyway. I finished them off with 2 coats of Rallye Silver. I decided on using the original oil cooler and not the spare one. The area where the bracket attaches to seems to be in pretty good shape compared to the other one. I do need to take care of this indentation though. It's probably fine to leave it as is, but I feel more at ease knowing it isn't going to become a hole. I made this back plate to weld against the bracket part to give it back some thickness. I was planning to weld it from the front, but then I found out that this entire oil cooler is made of aluminum. So you cannot weld metal, steel to aluminum. So that was a bunch of wasted time. You can find out if you're working with aluminum or steel by pressing a magnet to it. If it sticks, it's metal. And if it doesn't stick, it is probably aluminum. This is the bracket part of the other oil cooler. As you can see, it's in worse shape than the one I'm using. Also, it's more dirty on the inside compared to the other ones. That's why I decided to use the original. I took the oil cooler to a welder because I cannot weld aluminum. I can weld steel, but I don't have anything to weld aluminum with. He also filled the indentation with liquid aluminum. You can see he added the plate on the front instead of the back like I was planning to. This is fine. He still left some material on there. I told him I didn't need it perfect. I can do things myself, so that's why. I still need to file it down. I do wish he didn't drill these holes though, because they're kind of big. I can still work with them though, but yeah, I would have preferred to do them myself. The welder cost me 40 euros. I filed it down to size, to what I like. Notice the bolts I stuck in the oil pipes to keep metal shavings from flying in. I got a good thickness on it now, nice and flat on the front. I used the Dremel to flatten the rear side. The ring on the bolt fits nice and snug now, as well on this side. I changed my mind on removing the overhang, so excuse the saw marks. I painted the oil cooler nicely black. Here are the Rallye Silver brackets I painted. They go together surprisingly well. I also prepared the bolts I'm going to use. I spray painted them as well. I have the hoses right here. Now I just need to cut them to size and fit them. I test fitted the oil cooler to the car first before attaching the hoses. If there's was anything I needed to change, I wanted to do it without hoses first, and it fit nice and snugly. You can see some damage here on the paint from the bolt tightening, but that's fine. Like I said, this was never going to be perfect anyway, but since it fits, now I just need to put on the hoses. I fitted the smaller hoses and it was quite a workout to get these on. It might be because I painted more than I should have on the oil pipes. I used engine oil to make them slide easier, and this to force them on. I left the top bracket loose to make it easier to fit to the car. The bottom bracket I tightened down. I picked the best clamps between the two oil coolers. I also treated them for rust and cleaned them. All that's left to do now is to fit the oil cooler to the car with these hoses I cut to size. Then it's finally time to fit the oil cooler. You can see here's the top mount bolt and the oil cooler is going to sit right here. I already treated the area. You want to put the oil cooler in from below, not from above. First hanging it from this stud without tightening down the nuts so it doesn't fall. Also remember we didn't tighten these bolts on the top bracket. That's so we can maneuver the oil cooler still around like so. We can set it in place quite easily. Then line it up with these two holes first. And yes, this one's net when I remove the oil cooler. Then once you've lined everything up, you can put in the bolts and tighten everything down. Don't forget about the top bracket. Don't mind the plastic bags, they are there to catch any oil drippings still in the engine. This top one attaches to here and this lower one attaches to here. Also a tip on these little bolts. They can be tightened to a certain degree. Once you have tightened them to their tightness, the head starts twisting without actually tightening the bolts. So be mindful of that. Use hand tools so you can feel the difference between it actually tightening and when the head starts twisting. You don't want to accidentally break it off. That's also why these bolts break easily. I fitted the hoses to the oil cooler bracket and I have some protective sleeves I need to still put on. They came from the old hoses, so I just cleaned them up. But before you put these hoses on, don't forget to put on the clamps. otherwise you have to take off the hose again. Here we are, the hoses are fitted with their protective sleeves, making sure these clamps are positioned in a way that they're easily accessible in case I need to take off the hose again. I also brushed and treated these spigots for rust. There you have it, this oil cooler is installed nicely. It sits nice and snugly and won't go anywhere. This is what the oil cooler looked like before I uninstalled it. Don't mind the clasps, I removed them myself. This is the Celica I'm going to be working on for future videos. It's a nice cool red color. There's the engine cooler we installed. I don't have the battery in it right now, hence the empty space. It has a 4A FE engine, which is a 1.6 liter 4-cylinder, about 100 horsepower. It does have power steering right here, as you can see, power steering fluid. It does have rotor distribution. It doesn't have a rear spoiler like other Celica has, but honestly I don't mind. I quite like the look. And the best part about it, you can open the roof. I know this video might not be up to the polished standard you're used to compared to what is out there, but this is where I am at right now, doing the best with what I've got. I'm working to grow this channel and level up the quality over time. If you believe in that and want to help, there is a PayPal link in the description. Every bit goes straight into better gear and cooler projects. I've got more plans for the Celica, so there's definitely more coming. Stick around, subscribe if you're into it, and thanks for watching. Bye bye.